and welcome to episode 4 of Someone's Got to Do It. Today's episode is sponsored by Two Putts. Two Putts is a local golf brand that sell a range of hats, t-shirts and hoodies, all golf leisure wear, like this one I have here. This is the Shamrock hat. You can see the green shamrock on the side and the green Two Putts logo across the front. Really, really good quality, well-made products, and they currently have a Father's Day sale on. Should you be interested, you can find them at 2-puts.co.uk, and they're available on Etsy and on TikTok, so please check them out while the sale's on. In today's episode, I sit down with Rob Wright. Rob is someone that I've known for a little while now, and who has suffered a lot with his mental health and has recently been diagnosed with bipolar. So in this episode, he talks about the effect that his mental health has had on his life and his career. There's some distressing scenes in which we talk about men's mental health in general. There's a little bit of talk about suicide as well. Listener discretion is advised. Please enjoy the episode and we'll get straight into it. Hello and welcome to Someone's Got to Do It with me, Callan. And today my guest is Rob Wright. Hi Rob, you okay, mate?
Yeah, good, thanks.
Thanks for coming on.
It's all right, thanks for having me.
I didn't make you a bad brew, did I?
It's all right, yeah. Could do with a bit more milk, but
that's my bad. That's my
bad.
bad.
No worries.
I'm going to start off straight away with my first question, like I always do. First question from me then. If somebody you know really well was going to describe you to a stranger, a complete stranger, someone you've never met, what would they say?
My wife's probably the one who knows me the best. And I actually asked her about this day, actually, and even she said she would find it difficult to describe me. Weird and wonderful, she says. And I don't know how to take that. Yeah, I mean, I suppose she would warn people about me in a good way because I'm a bit of a joker. I like to prank people. I like to take the mick out of people. Even new people that I first met, you know, not in a bad way. So yeah, she does warn people about me, but I'm also quite empathetic towards people. She'll tell you this: if shit hit the fan with anyone, my mates, anyone I ever knew, I'd be there as best as I can. Yeah, quite cheerful, but on the flip side of that, I can go a bit withdrawn. Yeah, a little bit into my shell a bit. Sometimes I find it difficult to speak to people. This is all what she would say. Yeah, that's about it, really.
So what do you think has happened in your life and in the build up to who you are today? Like, so even starting as a child and starting young, what do you think has happened in your life for you to get to a stage where you think the person that knows you best would describe you in that way?
Difficult, really. I mean, I suppose like early teens. So I had a pretty decent childhood. It was all right. I was born in Blackpool. My dad's from Blackpool, well, my real dad. My mum's from London. They broke up when I was about 18 months old, moved me and my brother back down south with my stepdad. My parents have never really been there for me. No, never. I don't speak to them now. Yeah, they've never really done anything. Like, even as a child, like, she was overly strict, my mum. She was very like sweary to us, and like we sort of feared her in a way. But probably, I mean, like, we had good friends, whatever. But when I got to like, I don't know, say 13, 14, I started acting a bit erratic. I say, like, I weren't like out of control. Like, I weren't a bully or I weren't an horrible kid. I was just a bit up and down. And I never really thought much of it because you don't at that age. My mum and dad couldn't, well, I would say they couldn't handle it. They didn't handle it. They just couldn't be bothered with it. So I got to the age of 14 and my mum and dad kicked me out on the street. I had nowhere to go. I slept on the street for about a month at the age of 14. And obviously with everything going on, like, I didn't realise at the time I might have been mentally ill. Yeah, eventually I moved back in. Got in with a bit of a wrong crowd at that age as well. So I was doing drugs, drinking. My mum and dad never helped me. There was never any support. I didn't even feel like I needed to go to them. Again, didn't let me back in. So when I got to 16, they let me back in briefly, booted me out again. I always thought it was my fault. It probably was in some ways, but I mean, parents should really be there for the kids at that age. So I moved to Blackpool because I had nowhere to live. So I phoned my dad, my real dad. He said, come up here. But he had his girlfriend at the time just didn't want me there, and she took an instant dislike to me. I'd done nothing wrong. My real dad's just a bit of a tosser anyway. I don't speak to him. So he was quite verbally abusive to me. He would constantly call me a failure. You will never amount to anything in your life. Your mum and dad don't want you, or your mum and stepdad don't want you. I'm starting to feel like I don't want you. Nicky don't want you here. That was his missus at the time. And then they booted me out. So now I was back to where I was 14, 16, but living on the street. But now I'm in a weird town where I know no one. I don't know any area. I was scared out of my life. Something like, kind of stemmed from that, the withdrawal and whatever. Yeah, but as I progressed through like teenage years and then adult life from my 20s, the depression come more obvious. I started noticing it a bit more. So I started going to the doctor. I said, I'm depressed. They do the usual thing, antidepressants, and it worked for a little while, but then just nothing, I keep getting depressed. These like reoccurring depressive moments. Excuse me. And I don't know, as I got older into my 30s and whatever, I was like, why am I still getting depressed? Everything I'm trying to do, I've been going counselling, I've been speaking to the doctor all the time. I'm taking antidepressants, nothing's working. And then like, I thought, this is like, when I got to me, it was only like a year ago. My wife went, do you think there's anything, do you think there's something different with your life? Do you think there's something more than just depression? I was like, well, I've been thinking that, yeah. And then like, you start thinking more. So what are you like when you're not depressed? I said, well, you can be quite hyper. You can be like quite talkative. You can be impulsive. You can be on edge, hyper vigilant. And I thought, well, yeah, it's got. So we went to the doctor. In fact, we went to the doctor about 8 years ago because I said, like, I think there's more to it. Can you test me for bipolar? So they did. They said, right, you got to give you a week and then ring us and tell you what it's been like for that week. I was like, no worries. And after about 3 days of that week, I got a depressive episode and rang him and said, yeah, he was all right for 3 days. He was up here and then he's depressed again. I'm right, he's not bipolar. And I'm like, what do you mean? He said, well, he needs to be hyper, he needs to be manic for a full week in order to diagnose you with bipolar. So straight away I was confused. I was like, well, what's wrong with you then? So we sort of left it again and went back to how it was. It just kept coming on and on. And then last year it got to the point where I was getting really low and everything. And I was like, I need a different opinion on this. I went back to the doctor, said, we need to look at this a bit more, because nothing's happening. Again, kept fobbing me off with antidepressants, everything like that. Well, I'm not having this. So we paid to go private at the Priory. And I had a full assessment with this doctor. It took a couple of hours, and he then diagnosed me with bipolar. But bipolar type 2, there's two. There's bipolar 1, bipolar 2. And the reason, when we first went for bipolar episode, what's it? The diagnosis, the reason they said it didn't have it is because they judged it off of bipolar 1. You need to be manic for a whole week continuously straight to be diagnosed with bipolar 1. Bipolar 2 is different. You're hypermanic, which is, it's the same as mania, but it's not as intense. But you get that for like 3 or 4 days and then you go into depression. The depression's worse. So yeah, he diagnosed me at the Priory. At the time, it was quite a relief. It was a relief because I thought, right, after 15, 20 years, whatever it's been, I'm finally getting answers of my behaviour and my mood. So it was a relief. And he said, right, we're going to start your meds. He said, but because it was private, of course, like we're always going to stretch out the appointment. So like, he said, yeah, do this mood tracker for a month and then come back to see what meds you're on. Right, so I did that. And went back. He went. Yeah, we need to see how you are for another month and all this. I was like, what? And after that, I got into a really, really, really low episode, like one of the lowest I've ever been, because I was a truck driver at the time, and I had to declare to DVLA about my diagnosis. So they suspended my truck license for a year, as well as my car, for 3 months. I've got my car back now. But that was my livelihood. So I got into a really low episode because I'm like, let's give up my job. I'm going to have nothing. And you get to that point where you're like, I've got nothing. And it was a really, really low point for me in that life. It really was, because I felt like I was losing my life in a way. I felt pressured, I put pressure on my missus and everything. And so what we did, we went back to an emergency appointment with a private and said, like, he's really, like, we had a face-to-face on like FaceTime. And he was talking, my wife was there. I just couldn't even answer him. I was just sitting there, just staring into nothing. Like, absolutely the lowest I've ever been. And he went, look, you need to phone the crisis team at the hospital. And he said, we have to discharge you. You need to ring them. So we did that. And first of all, they were all going, well, we need to assess you again to diagnose you properly. I was like, well, I've already had it. So that was another hiccup that sent me on, sent me down. And yeah, I mean, it was difficult. It really was, because anyway, eventually I got the diagnosis off the NHS, and they put me on meds. The meds, like anything else, take a few weeks to kick in. But at this point, I obviously I didn't have a job. I had to give my job up. This was in October last year. And now I'm at this point, this low point. I thought it couldn't get any worse. And unfortunately, I don't want to like put down on it. I was standing on a bridge, and I was gonna jump. I was standing there. I was sitting in my car, actually. I was just sitting there for about an hour and a half, just not even on my phone, just sitting there staring. I'm just going to jump off this bridge. I'm suicidal. I don't want to live anymore. Little did I know that my wife was out looking for me, and eventually she found me. And obviously she was in bits because, husband. She managed to talk me back home, and she said, right, we're going to deal with this. She said, like, you're obviously not going back to work yet because you're not in the right frame of mind. You need a couple of months off. And then once your meds are kicked in and you've had some therapy and that, we'll look at getting another job. Yeah, and I did, and it's tough. It was. I mean, we were financially all right, so we could afford to have a few months off, or I could. I mean, the joy, I got Christmas off, so I got to spend Christmas with family, which is good. Yeah, so these last few months have been a bit up and down. I'm starting to come out of it now. Got a new job. I haven't started it yet, but, yeah, it was tough. It really was.
It sounds like your life, even from a very, very early age, has been very up and down and really tough. Growing up as a young child and moving from, so you say you was really young when you moved, about 18 months old, did you say, when you moved from Blackpool to London?
Yeah.
How many primary schools in London did you attend? Did you say just at the one?
Only one, yeah.
Right, okay. And then what was your high schooling like? Being in a household where you say your mum wasn't very supportive and your stepdad wasn't very supportive, must have been really, really tough. How did that affect your schoolwork?
I didn't pay attention to school. I left school at 15. I actually got my first ever job when I was 14, working over the market. At first, it was a Sunday job, and then I started bunking off. But I mean, like, to go back to the schooling, yeah, I wasn't very good at school. I messed around. Just didn't pay attention. I was more interested in my mates messing around. But even, like, there was a park or a big field behind our school. So a lot of the times we'd jump over the fence, go and smoke weed over the park. And then obviously the parents would get involved. And my mum she'd off on one all the time. And I was just to think, like, you don't care, like, because my mum was very much keeping up appearances. She still is. She was, you know, everyone see her as a lovely person, all that. And for years, I've got two brothers, and she's always been the same with it. But I've always been like the black sheep, you know. Always. I mean, I talked to one of them. The other one, not as much. Not at all, really.
What's the age difference?
So I'm the oldest. I'm 39. My brother Gary is just turned 38. And my youngest brother is 36. So, yeah, I mean, my mum's she's always looked up like Gary he's a bit of a snide. Yeah, he's got the money. He works in like a barrister's office somewhere. He just works with all these like yuppies in London. He's turned into one. And my mum, he absolutely, like, he's always kissed my mum and dad's ass, and they've like fed off that. So me and my other brother have just been tossed to the side. So yeah, I mean, I got to a point at school where I thought, I don't even give a shit what my mum thinks when I go home. She can ground me, she can hit me, do what she wants. I don't care. That's when looking back, I don't think I've ever had much respect from parents, you know. Especially nowadays, you know, because I don't speak to them. I think I've realised over the last couple of years it's absolutely fine to cut off people, even if they're your family. If it makes your life better, then go for it, you know, and that's what I've done. I don't look back. I think it's one of the best choices I've ever made. I've got to look at me and my wife are important now. We're trying to build our life, you know.
How difficult was it to, by the sounds of it, not very difficult, but how difficult was it to leave London and head back to the north for Blackpool?
Not very hard, to be honest. Well, the reason I left 10 years ago, I was in an abusive relationship with a girl, and she was just mental, and she ended up sleeping with other blokes. So I thought, well, I need to get away from it. Obviously, again, my parents just didn't care. I was like, I need somewhere to stay, not a good place. She's done this, she's done that. The answers were, not my problem, not our problem. You're 30 odd years old, deal with it. I'm like, well, I want my parents. Why can't you be my parents? Like, support me like normal parents. Not our problem. Not our problem. So I was like, I'll move up here a couple of days. It was meant to be for a couple of weeks, actually, just get me head straight. To my dad's, it's the only place I could think to go. And you know what, right? I've done what any like newly single lad does. Went on dating sites, and I went round looking for, looking shag birds, we say, yeah. and I ended up meeting my missus on there. We got off really well, and I didn't think we'd end up being married 10 years later, and I'm glad we are. You know what I mean? She's my absolute rock. If it weren't for her, to be honest, not to sound brutal, but if it weren't for her, I probably wouldn't even be here. You know, I probably would have done myself in at some point.
So moving to Blackpool.
I moved to Blackpool.
Yeah, so you moved to Blackpool from London, and you lived with your dad briefly before moving out again.
Yeah.
What did you do when you moved out? Where did you go?
When I moved out of his...
When you moved out of your dad's place in Blackpool.
So I'd met Sarah, my wife.
Right, so you'd met her at that point.
Yeah,
right, okay.
So we got chatting, we started going out and this and that, and I ended up moving in with her because, like I said, he's just a tosser anyway. He's a drinker, and so yeah, we got really close, and we moved in quite quick actually. She already had a house, and I moved in with her after about 2-3 months, and so in Preston, and it's been all right. I mean, there's ups and downs, of course, but yeah, best move I've ever done, really. Maybe it's like fate in a way, you know, because if it weren't for like my ex and my parents being like that, I was asking myself this: would I be up here now? Where would I be if I didn't come up here? Would I still be? Would I even have the bipolar diagnosis? You know, it's things like that. I think it was an impulsive decision to come up here and stay with him for a little while. But ultimately, that decision has got me to where I am now.
Mm.
You know?
So what did you do? You worked on the market in London.
Yeah.
What did you do for work
What?
on the market? What did
I
you
was
do?
sold snide clothes.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah. Nicks and everything, yeah. Honestly. Yeah.
How long did you do that for?
6, 7 months. But like I say, it was a Sunday job, but then he started taking me on through the week. So I'd bunk off school and go. I was like, well, I don't like school anyway. I might as well go and earn a bit of cash. You know, that's what's going to pay for me weed at the time. You know, why not? But, you know, that's how it was.
When you moved to Blackpool, what did you do for work then? Like between, living with your dad and living with your partner now, what did you do for a job?
Well, I worked with him. He's a landscape gardener. He's got his own business. Well, he had it. I don't know what he's like now. Yeah, for a while. So that just kept me ticking over for a bit. And then I got chatting to one of his mates who was a window fitter, because before I moved up to Blackpool, I was fitting windows with my mate. So I had a good experience in that. I was really enjoying it. So I got chatting to one of his mates, and he said, right, I'll take you on. You can start, fitting windows with me and all that. Great, yeah. And I did that. But then, his work dried up around Christmas, so I had nothing coming in. And because I was living this, and I was like, well, I've got to find a steady job in and around Preston. So I found a job Viking Tyres. I don't know if you heard of them. They used to be a fire. Yeah. So they're not in business. But yeah, I got a job there as a driver, and I was there for about 2 years. So I worked my up to supervisor at the warehouse. Yeah.
And what was that doing?
Well, it was delivering tyres, and then the supervisor was just a general supervisor of the warehouse.
Right.
Yeah.
And so why did you leave there?
Because I joined the prison service. Career.
How do you get into doing the prison service?
Well, I've always... See, me, I've always wanted... and I'm on a lot in life. All I've wanted is a career, a wife, a home, and a family, what every bloke wants.
That's the goal for so many people, isn't it? So
Well,
it's normal, that.
That's all I've wanted, simple things like... And I thought, right, I've got a wife. And at this point, I'd already proposed to her, and we'd already set a date for marriage. And I thought to myself, right, I want to get a career. I was like, this is a good job. I've got some good mates, but it don't bring much in, And I've got a wedding to think about now. And I had a look, and prison service pops. I was like, yeah, I'll give that a crack. I'll give that a crack. I'll see what it's like. And so I applied. And to be honest, the application at the time it weren't too difficult. It was all right. There weren't even an interview, so you had to do you have to answer scenario questions in the application, and then you get invited to their bases. So I went to Newbold, which is down, it's like Coventry way, to do an assessment day. So you do maths and English. You do these role plays with actors, and they see how you react, and you've got to read key points and key words, buzzwords, might be. Yeah, I mean it was quite daunting with the actors and whatever, but yeah, I mean I got through it, and then about 3-4 months later, I got offered a job at H&P Style, which is a women's prison near Manchester Airport. So yeah, I went there. I think I started April, May time, 2019. Well, I did my training first in Kirk. That was 10 weeks, and then I went.
Is that the open prison?
Yeah, that's what I ended up at H&P Style. And I thought, right, at that point, and this was, I started live as a prison officer a week before my wedding.
Wow.
So it was all, to me, I thought, everything's coming together now. You know what I mean? Look, I'm getting everything I want. We're putting money down for a mortgage. We're getting married in a really nice place. All my friends come up to see me. I've got a job. I feel like I made it. I thought, brilliant. Unfortunately, that job is pretty horrendous, as I got to know pretty quick. It's not. You have to be quite thick-skinned, and I was. To be fair, I could handle myself against prisoners. I always sort of, I always responded to incidents. I always had people's backs. But again, you speak to some of the older screw who've been in the job 15, 20 years, and they say this job has completely changed. He said, you just don't get looked after, most of it, I remember, you respond to like a bad incident, say like, I don't know, suicide attempt or something. And it is quite, seeing something like that, especially for the first time, is really daunting. Of course, we're human. And like, so you come away shaken and all that, and they'll be like, "Are you all right?" Yeah, be all right. Like, that's it. You never really hear anything. It's just like crack on, But you get a lot of people going sick in the prison service because they can't, because your head just don't go with it. And me at the time, because of my undiagnosed bipolar, I was doing all right. And, when I was in the higher, I was going to work and I felt fine. I felt like I can take on the world. I can do this. I was doing loads and loads of overtime. And then the depressive part hit, and I just couldn't handle it, because not only that, you're dealing with very complex people who've been through stuff a lot worse than me, and then to go into work in that frame of mind is just unbearable, and I learned that very quick. And not only that, the style was like an hour drive away. Not only that, I then had 2 hours onto my day getting back and forth to so put a transfer to Preston prison, and I got it. And I mean, women prisoners are a lot worse than blokes. Like, they really are. They're very. There's a lot more self-harm, and a lot more suicide attempts. I mean, you get sort of like used to the self-harm and that. But it's general attitude of women. I mean, not to say like that, but I mean like women, like with them sort of issues. So they'd like gang up on you in a way. So like if you told one no, I mean over something trivial, they go, "Can I just pop down? Can I pop and see the nurse for this and that?" Eventually you'd realise that it's a black. No, he's go behind the door. They'll start arguing with you, and then next thing there'll be 5 or 6 of them around you. "Why are you saying no? Why are you saying no?" Blah, blah, blah. And they're all around you in your ear, and you have to have that. You have to have that attitude to stand up to them. Like if you didn't, they'll just walk all over you. I mean, the blokes do it as well, but not to the extent of like they're just absolute wild. Not all of them. Some of them have got on with, but also another thing as well. What you got to remember is there's a lot of people in there like who've been like abused by men. You can imagine. So automatically, like just naturally, they just don't get on with blokes, and they see us as threats. And so being a bloke in a women's prison was quite difficult because a lot of them didn't like you just because you're a bloke. And I kind of got it because, if they've been abused by people they trust or their dad or whatever, I kind of got it. So I had to try and sympathise with that. But on the flip side, when the job's got to get done and you're dealing with people like that who just want a reason to go at you, it's challenging. It really is. And it was just, the only good thing I got out of Style was I met some really good pals, and they're really good pals to this day. Like really, really. Again, I wouldn't be there. I wouldn't be where I am now if it weren't for my pals at Style. Anyway, yeah, sorry. I moved to Preston jail at about just after COVID. So it was about 2021.
What was the drive for moving prison and wanting to? Was it just the travel? Was the travel that bad?
It was travel, yeah.
Right.
The travel was horrendous. Especially like I finish at a certain time and I did all the traffic. It'd take me 2 hours to go, and then having to come back for another 12-hour shift. How
were you mentally knowing that you were going to leave a women's only prison and join a man's one, having never done that before?
I just went off of what people who had worked in male prison had told me, and they said like, so I went in sort of prepared. They said like, these lot are worse. They said like, with the women, we were kind of like restraining them quite a lot of the time because And he said like, men. He said, yeah, you restrain. He said like, they won't be as at you as much, but when it goes off, be prepared for it to go off because they're a lot stronger. They're more aggressive. He said, like, So I went in like that, thinking, like, still went in, just went off what people said. And then, men are still difficult. They really are, But ultimately, I found it a lot easier working with guys. The prison, I mean, Preston prison weren't much better for trust. The structure was really, it was closer. Yeah, I mean, but again, like I didn't feel welcome at Preston Jail most of the time. I don't know why. I just didn't. I liked it at first, but then, like, again, going back to my mental health, I was struggling a lot and I was going off sick, like, but for like a month or two at a time, you know, because of depression, and then it would come back, be back, and it become like a repetitive cycle. And I think, like, I don't know, people were noticing I was going off sick a lot. And, I mean, I was lucky to have some good managers at Preston. They were decent. They were very good at their job, and they were very understanding of my issue. But the thing is with jail, when you go off sick, they tend to, the policy, like, is they tend to hound you. So I'll get a phone call every week or every 2 weeks from my manager, and he'd be like, how you doing, everything I do, and all this and that. But, I mean, it's not them. Like, you can tell that they've been told to try and get you back in. When are you coming back? When are you coming back? So, well, I'm going to be back in 2 months when I'm sick. No, I'm off sick. I'm trying to get me, you know. And it was just, I mean, I was lucky to have good managers at the time who were decent blokes. They were there for me. And I know they were only doing a job, but, I mean, at the same time, you'd see your phone ring, see that it was work again. And it was just, there was, yeah, I mean, it was just, I just couldn't cope with it anymore, you know, and it was starting to affect my marriage, like, badly. We nearly broke up. We were, like, hanging on by the skin of our teeth. Our marriage, I was drinking a lot more. And it's all because of this, like, dealing with this and dealing with the general sort of, like I said, I didn't really feel welcome. Like, it was like, there weren't really much support from some other officers, really, as well. Like, I know everyone takes a mick out of each other. That's fine. I get that. But, like, I felt really guilty for going off sick all the time. Yeah. I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but sometimes I was, like, made to feel like, maybe, like, I was made to feel that I should have been there, and, oh, look, you're going off sick, you're weak, and all this, and can't hack it, all that. And that played in my mind a lot. But yeah, I mean, it's just, yeah, I mean, ultimately, I'm kind of glad I did it, because it's taught me some really good lessons about life, who to look out for, who to trust, etc., etc. But, I mean, it's some of the lowest points of my career. Thinking back, is joining the prison service. So I got to the point where I just thought, I've had enough. I need to get out. I need to do something. So I had a backup coming up. So I knew I was going to have a few months off for that. I had 6 months off my back. So I told them, I said, look, I'm having a back operation. I'll be off 6 months. I'm going to be sick. Right, no worries. So, right, in that 6 months, I'm going to do something. I'm going to get out of that. I'm going to do something that's worth doing. So I was like, what can I do? So, and then my mate, who I used to work with at Style Prison, he'd got out about a year before me, and he got his truck license. So I was chatting to him. I said, I don't know what to do. Like, he said, why don't you get your truck license? Like, I said, it's really good. I love it. I'm always out and about doing my own thing, you know, and like, it's always work. And I was like, that's a good idea, actually, yeah. So I'll give it like 3-4 months to get me back recover. Still had a couple of months left to play with. So when I got my truck license, and I was getting full pay from prison service for 6 months. And I got to the 6 month point. I was nearly at the 6 month point, and my manager come round to like do like a check and see if I was all right. And he knew I won't come back. Like, it weren't said, but like it was sort of implied, you know. Yeah, and then like he rang me a couple of weeks later. He said like, you should hand your notice in. So yeah, I got to the end of 6 months. Didn't even like bring it in, didn't even write. I just emailed him a notice, and that was it. I was out. I was gone. I walked straight into a job actually, doing recovery, because I had my license at this point, right? And that was a nightmare. That was an absolute nightmare. the company I worked for were probably the worst company I've ever worked for in my life. I was only there 3 weeks or so. And I didn't even have noticing. I just said, I'm not coming back. See you later. They treat you like absolute shit. Like you were literally just a number. The tools are crap. The wagons are crap. They expected you to work 24/7 around the clock. So they'll give you do like 4 on, 4 off, and it'd be 12-hour shifts. But it weren't 12-hour shifts. So you do your 12 hours. And if you were out, you'd get like 10 minutes before finishing your shift. And then you expected, right, no, we need you to go out an hour down the motorway to pick up a car. I was like, well, finish. I don't give a shit if you finish. You're doing it. Right. And then, like, so you'd end up working like an extra couple of hours over that. And then you'd go home and then expected to be on call the whole time while you're off. And I thought, this is bollocks. Like, it really is. Like, this is, like, no one can do this to you. And I just said, no, I was looking at them and their, like, turnover of staff was just, like, absolutely, like, bad, you know, like, because no one wanted to work there. It was horrible. And they didn't pay me for my last 2 weeks. So I got on to them, with my wages and all this. And blagging it and all this. I said, right, if you don't give it, I'm gonna take you to court or whatever. Anyway, the manager sent me this long email back threatening me, saying, well, he said, well, you need to pay for your training that we've supplied to you. That they supplied, they didn't send me off, they give me the training. You've lost the remote to one another, so you need to pay us for this and all this and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, I don't. So anyway, we just left it. I thought, I can't be asked for this for the sake of a couple of £100. You know. So I moved on to somewhere, I moved on to delivering food, like in a wagon, just up Manelian Way near Red Star. And it was all right, you know, but bear in mind, like when you're a truck driver, you start at the bottom, so you're always going to get a shit job because everyone wants experienced truck drivers for everything. So yeah, I did that for about 3 or 4 months. It was all right. It was really early start. It was like 2 a.m, but you finish at like 11. And it was every Saturday. And it was just, I knew like I wasn't going to do it forever. It was just to get out of that recovery job. So I thought, well, I'm going to get built up a bit of experience. Found a job as a skip driver in Lytham. And I loved that. Like, I loved the people working there were brilliant. Like, absolutely loved it. Like, it was, I wanted to stay there for the rest of the life. You know, it was bad. In fact, the owner of Lytham Skips has just picked up his blue belt at SPG.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah. And both of them, yeah. So that was a common sort of chat. But yeah, I mean, I was getting on really well there. And then, like, this is at the time when I went to get my diagnosis with bipolar. So I was there for about a year, just under a year and a half. I started making little mistakes, you know, because I was losing my concentration. I'd done a little bit of damage now and then and that, and I was getting Ritter morning. It's fair enough. I was looking, I was like, this is getting, like, I'm losing concentration. I'm starting to lose, I felt like I was going downhill then. So then, this is why I had to give that job up, because I got that diagnosis, and I didn't give it straight away. Like, they were very supportive, because it was my boss at the time who said, I'll give you the time off. You can go to the Priory. I went there. He'd been there. He'd done whatever he needed to do with his, you know, and he said it really helped him. And they were really supportive. They were there for me. He said, anything you need, you know. But unfortunately, I had to leave, you know, because I didn't have a truck license. And I left on really good terms, but I was absolutely gutted. And then that's when everything started, from what I told you earlier about giving up work. And
so the bipolar has been, sounds like it's been a big part of your life through your whole career, through even like early childhood. And how much do you think that affected you when you was in the prison service?
A lot.
Really?
Yeah, a lot. 100%. That a job like that, someone with a I don't want to like, it is a serious mental health condition, of course it is. But someone with severe, like, with something like that shouldn't be in a prison service. So, you know, I shouldn't have been in that job, because it was ultimately affecting me. Like I said earlier, I nearly lost my marriage, because I'd come home and I'd be in such a bitter mood, and I'd take a lot of things out of my wife. I'd shout, scream, you know, I would, like, you know, it was horrendous. And that's the point. I was drinking, and she threatened, she's like, I can't deal with you anymore. I don't, you know, you're drinking too much. You're angry. You want to fight the world, you know, and it was really bad. Like, I was, you know, It was really bad. And then like that, when I thought I could tell she's had enough. I genuinely thought she's gone. And that like, I remember. So we'd arranged to go to York for our wedding anniversary, but she went on her own, and she said, "I want you to stay here," and that absolutely teared me apart. It really did. As soon as she left, I closed the curtains and I just sobbed and sobbed and sobbed, absolutely sobbed. Like, and that's when I thought, right, I've really got to do something about this, because look, you've built everything up. You've come from nothing, no support for your life. You've built all this up. I built it up like by myself, near enough. You built this up, and you're just what is it worth it? No, it isn't. So I stopped drinking. I didn't drink for about 6 months. Started coming together, but ultimately it was still there because I was still in this job. And it was absolutely ruining me. Like I'd be like standing on the landing and like I'd be withdrawn and just couldn't be asked. But like I'd get through the day. But what people I didn't work with, they saw that I weren't right. I also did, but what they didn't see was what it was like at home. Like there'd be times where I would go to my bedroom, and there's a corner. I'd sit in the corner of my bedroom on the floor, like just holding my knees, just sitting there shaking. Like, I don't want to go out. I don't want to go out. Like, the anxiety was horrendous. I can't face going to work, but I can't face ringing them up to tell them I'm not coming in. It was just like, I was absolutely like all over the place. So the best thing I did was leave, It was just, yeah.
Was it at that moment? At what moment did you realise? Obviously, we've talked about you've had mental struggles for as long as you can remember. But what was the turning point from the moment where you think something's not right here? There's something not right, and I need help. At what point was that?
It was then when my wife left me.
That was the point.
That was the point. That was the point where I was like, and something needs to happen. I love my wife a bit. I mean, she drives me mental, absolutely mental. But then so I drive her mental. But we get through it,
Really strong woman to stand by you through all that as well.
Yeah, she's one of the strongest women I've ever met in my life. And I I didn't want to lose her, and that would have been a massive impact on my life if that had happened. Like I actually went to York and, for the day, but then she phoned me and she went, "Well, come and meet me in York." Then the second day, so I did. I got the train up. And we spent the day in York together, and it was really awkward at first. Like it was like, because we had this big bus stop and whatever, and it was really, really awkward. And I was like, anyway, we got more comfortable, and we started chatting about it on the car drive home. I was like, I know I'll put you through this. I'm sorry. I feel so bad about it. I don't want to lose you. I'm going to give up drinking. I'm going to do, I'll do. It's going to be hard, but I'll do what I can to make it better, But I mean, we knew at that point this job is absolutely tearing you apart. Like I said, people who I worked with, they saw that I weren't right at work, but they didn't see the home side of it. They didn't see how bad I was at home. Like I said, I'd sit in a corner and like just ignore everyone. My wife would come in and see if I'm all right. I wouldn't even speak to her. I wouldn't even look at her. Just sit there like that, like just absolutely like just gone. Absolutely gone in my head. And I was like, no one wants to live a life like that. It's horrible. It really is.
And is that because of the things you were seeing during your day?
Partly. I think it was more with the stress, and maybe, like I said, I had good managers, but I still feel there was a bit of lack of support. I think they could have worked out better. There are things I've seen, like, it affect me. I've seen a dead body. He was hung himself one night, so I didn't cut him down, my colleague did. I had to give CPR to him, knowing he was dead, and just looking at a dead body like that, it's like, it's just, anywhere should really give you support for that, because it does affect you. It really does. The guilt that flowed. I could have done something to help him. Could I have done something to help him? Could I have done this? You doubt yourself, and like I mean, I was on nights at the time, but we had one of the managers come in. He was on the care team, and he was a top bloke, like really loved this bloke. And he come in the next night just to check on us all. He's like, "I'm coming around." He come around, have a cup of tea with us all, had a chat, said like, "Anything you need, you know where I am. I'll give you my number. You can ring me anytime." Blah blah blah, blah. Which was great. It really was. But that was it. Prison didn't supply anything. They got care teams. Like, I don't remember the care team apart from him coming to see us once. That, they just didn't care. They just chucked you straight back into the jail, into your job. There's nothing there, really.
How often did you see things like that?
I mean, death, I only saw it once. Well, I saw it twice, actually. I saw one in Style. A young girl had hung herself. I didn't find her. I was Oscar 2, which is basically second in command on nights. And so every morning you go around and do the count. And I was sitting there chatting to my mate. It was about 5 in the morning. And then I've heard over the radio, like, blah, 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 the commotion. And I thought, right, that sounds bad. So I've run to it, thinking it was a fight or something. Anyway, when I got there, I knew this girl as well. I found her laid out on the ground. Nurses working on her and all that, but again, she was only, I think she was 18. Seeing a young girl like that I'd say that was worse than seeing the guy. I mean, obviously seeing the guy, that was bad, but seeing a very young girl, it makes you think, what's got her to that point? And it's always the ones that you don't think are going to do it as well. Because she was all right. I mean, she reminded me of Bart Simpson. She was a bit mischievous and, but yeah, it just makes you, and it really affects you. And again, I don't remember getting much support from it,
How much of an effect do you think that had on your own mental health as well? She's obviously had real mental health issues and battles with herself to get to the point of even considering something like that. Fighting this battle yourself at the time and seeing somebody else who's clearly fighting the same battle and succumbing to it. How much more does that elevate your own mental health?
You definitely empathise with it. You definitely feel terrible for them, no matter what they've done to go in prison or no matter what they've been like in prison. You definitely get some feeling for it, And yeah, it did affect my mental health. It made me, I was guilty. I weren't guilty. I felt guilty. I felt, you doubt yourself as a prison officer. You think, am I doing terrible at this job? And all this builds anxiety. This brings, it builds, worry, stress on yourself. I was losing a lot of sleep. It just built a lot of stress, to be honest, for me.
When you left the prison service, obviously that was a good decision for you at the time.
Yeah.
Did your mental health improve after that?
Yeah, it started to, but again, like I still had the undiagnosed bipolar. But yeah, I mean, life seemed a bit more bearable. Apart from that recovery job, that was affecting my mental health because you're getting thrown around like a dickhead, basically. Yeah, I mean, but once I got to that skip driving job, the hours were good. It was Monday to Friday, so every weekend, I found jiu-jitsu during there, so I thought, right, I could make the evening classes as well. I could do the weekends. It worked. Everything works, I can do, pay was good. And my mental health, I thought, right, I'm going to start improving now. Things get better. But then again, I was dipping, low in and I was like, what is it? What is it? Basically, yeah. And then. Yeah.
How do you start to get that help?
Sorry?
How did you start to get the help? So you said you had the discussion with your partner, your wife, in the car coming back. I need to get help. Like, something needs to happen. We need to do something about it. Where do you start?
Well, I actually, went to Alcoholics Anonymous. I only went twice, but they weren't really for me. Like, I thought, I'm not at the point where I'm dependent on drink. I'm just drinking really heavily. Do you know what? I can't even remember, to be honest. Like, he just went back to the doctor, and said that, and so he signed me off again for about 3 or 4 months in prison service because, again, depression and stress. I actually thought I had PTSD at one point because of seeing these bodies and all the self-harm and all this, So, I was going to the doctor thinking, like, I might have PTSD or something. I never really got screened for it or, like, tested for it. He just put it down as, like, stress, possible PTSD. Signed me off again after that. And again, you get better, and I went back to work, and it was just a reoccurring thing. I think we just, I don't know, it used to be, like, sometimes me and my wife, if we have an argument, a lot of time we'll brush it under the carpet. We're starting to deal with it better nowadays, but back then we'd make up, and then it would kind of get forgotten about. So we just carry on living our lives, and then it would happen again and again, and it's brush on the carpet again and then, but ever since bipolar and that, and she's been really supportive of it because she's even gone out and bought books on how to understand. She understands it as well, how to deal with it, how to, because, I mean, she didn't know how to deal with it. I didn't know how to deal with it. So she was having to deal with me in these episodes and that, and she didn't have a clue. So that added a lot of stress to her. Yeah, I mean.
So what did you do when you get diagnosed with bipolar? What then? Then what? So you had to give up your job. So you give up your job. What support do you then get from the NHS?
Well, because I told you about that suicide moment, I was in under the care of, they're called I can't remember what they're called. They're part of Preston Hospital now, basically a crisis team. And so I was under care of them, so I had to have regular visits at home from them for weeks. So they kind of put a care plan in place, but at this point they put me on meds. I'm on the Motrogen, it's called. It's a mood stabilizer, and obviously, like, this suicide moment was just at the beginning of my meds. So, but after about 6 weeks, mood started improving a lot, and obviously with these visits, like, it was a compulsory sort of visit. I had to be there, because of suicide attempts. But yeah, I mean, as the meds started working, everything started leveling out. I mean, I've been all right, for the last few months. I still have up and downs. I do, I'm always going to have them up and downs. I am. But I'm starting to learn how to manage it. Like, depressive episodes used to last for 2-3 weeks, and I mean, like, low. Now, even if I get that low, it only lasts a day, But these meds are working for me. They really are, So yeah, that's how it got better, I'd say. The medication. I mean, like I said before, we're all right financially. Like I said, I've got a new job now, so it's really better. But we were financially, but we still have to be quite tight. I've been to, like, NH. It's something called the Haven. They're up near Morrison somewhere, and I thought they were like. They'll do. They're like a counselling session, but they were rubbish. They were like, they didn't even know I had bipolar. I'm like, they treated me for, like, the usual one size fits all thing, and I'm going there and I'm like, this is doing absolutely fuck all for me, And it's just, so, like I said, now that when I get a bit more money coming in, I'm going to start going to private, what they call it, counsellor. That's going to help a lot. Not only that, like, we've worked out strategies on how to deal with things, like my wife's there for me, even though, she gets on my nerves sometimes, but what married couples don't, but yeah, I mean, it is hard. It really is. Like, it really is hard. And I find that being quite open about it, like I'm doing now with her, it does help. On the other side of that, a lot of people do see me as a condition instead of a person, if that makes sense. So, like, they'll be like, not everyone, but you can sense it. They'll be like, oh, that's the guy with bipolar, or that's Rob. He's got, he's bipolar. Be careful there, and all this. I don't want that really. I want to be treated. I mean, it's not that I don't get treated differently, but do you know what I mean? Like, I'm open about it because it helps me. I talk to everyone. Like, the other day I was in training. I think it was Tuesday morning, and I got on the mat and I just didn't train. I just sat there and I was sobbing. I had to go to the toilet and bring and pull myself together. And it was just, yeah. I mean, like, but people noticed, and I was open about it, and so this is, is how I'm feeling. But that helps, I wouldn't tell anyone. I've become quite a good judge of character over time, so I'll know who I can and can't talk to now. That's one of my strategies: being open, honest about it. Still get a little bit withdrawn, Sometimes I can't make it to training because I'm too withdrawn, or But yeah, I mean, another strategy is jiu-jitsu. The lads and the ladies I train with, like, it's one of the best decisions I've ever made. I've met some cracking people there. In the space of a year, I've made some really good pals, and I'm going to make some more. That's a really good,
I had Peter Pan on a couple of episodes ago. I've had a few lads from Jiu-Jitsu on, and I've said on the podcast a few times that initially starting the podcast, a lot of people that we interview are going to be from Jiu-Jitsu, just because there's a variety of different people that go. But we touched on it with Stu on episode 2, and touched on it with Peter Pan on episode 3, and we talked about the mental health benefit to Jiu-Jitsu and how much it helps people. And this is a little bit of a background story from my side, and I said the same to Peter Pan. I went through a little bit of trauma early on in my Jiu-Jitsu career. My Jiu-Jitsu journey, my career. And I can't even talk about how much Jiu-Jitsu helped me in that time. And it's like everyone deals with things in different ways, and the way I dealt with what I was going through was Jiu-Jitsu. So I bang on about Jiu-Jitsu all the time and the mental health benefits of it and everything, and I go on and on and on about it. But when you're there, you don't see these battles that people are having. We're just a group of people, men and women, who were just enjoying the same thing, having that mental release. When I met you, Rob, I had no idea about the story you were going to tell me today. I had no idea. All I know is that we train Jiu-Jitsu together. I love Jiu-Jitsu. You've been loving Jiu-Jitsu. And hearing your story now, I can understand why you want to train Jiu-Jitsu so much. And it's, mate, I respect you a lot. And I honestly really, really thank you for sharing as well.
No, anytime, mate,
and for
honestly,
being so open.
Brilliant. I love it. It's, like I said, it's a great release for me, because you get, even if you turn up a bit stressed, you're not stressed when you leave, and my wife loves that I do it. She's very supportive of it. Not only that, she gets to watch all her crap on the telly when I'm not there. And it is crap, I can tell you now. But, yeah, so more I get out there, the more, the happier she is. So it's a win-win for her, really. But yeah, I mean, I honestly best, I mean, like you say, like the coaches are just spot on, including yourself, apart from that Roxanne warmer. That's horrendous. But, yeah, all the coaches are brilliant. I've got no doubts in any training. I'm very confident in what they teach. They're very good role models. It's great. It really is. It's just more than a community. It is. It's a community. Even just little things like I said about Tuesday when I was really down. Just little things. I had Martin texting me, and he just, and he was really supportive, and he was like, it's where, anything, give us a shout. And I thought, what a decent guy, what an absolute diamond.
Well, Martin's episodes he's been released now, and a lot of people have heard it, and I've had a lot of feedback as well, and so has Martin, about how well he came across and how nice of a person he really is. And it's like you don't see somebody until you know him, and the Jiu-Jitsu is full of people like that, and Martin is a classic example of it.
Yeah, definitely.
Really nice dude.
Yeah, I mean, he even texted me when I picked up my other stripes the other day, because he was there training as well. A couple of hours later, I get a text from him saying again, just remember it's not just jiu-jitsu, it's a community, it's a shoulder to cry on, you know. And then like at the end he went, really proud of you today, mate. I've not known Martin that long, but again, for him to say that to me, just give me that little boost that I need sometimes. Great. And I thought, yeah, because I doubt myself with jiu-jitsu a lot of the time, like I do with anything else. There's weeks, I mean, like I speak to John Reddy a lot, and I talk to him a lot. When I'm in a really downer, I'll text him. He'll tell yourself, I'll text him now, John, I don't think I can go back. I don't think I'm doing very well. I'm getting smashed all the time. I can't concentrate. I said, I don't think I can carry on. And in proper John Reddy style, I'll get another text back, you know, bollocks, you're doing well, pans to see you doing well, you know, stop doubting yourself, stop kicking yourself up the arse. Get all this all the time off him. You know, and he knows I've got bipolar, and he'll say, it cracks me up, he'll go like, oh, it's all right, you'll be fighting the world in 2 days when you're manic, you know. Yeah, you're probably right, actually, there, John, yeah. It's just little things like this. This is what I say, I'm not made of glass. I don't mind if people even banter about it with me, you know. And
but you don't want it to define you either.
Well, yeah,
you know
exactly, I mean? Yeah. But again, I'm not like that. For me, it's like when he goes, I'm really down. I'm like, well, you'll be coming in smashing everyone up in 2 days. So I don't know what you're moaning about. And like, he's like, yeah, you're right, actually. But this is what I mean about it. It's not just a fight club, or well, if you can call it a fight club. it's great, you know. There's support there and everything, and that to me, for my own struggles, is a massive, massive help. It's probably my biggest coping strategy.
What other coping strategies do you have outside of jiu-jitsu? I mean, what else helps?
I go to the gym. I know I've got a bit of a stomach on me, but I'm reasonably fit. I like weight training. I like swimming. I like hiking as well. I like going on a good hike, you know, in a really nice place. I mean, yeah, that's really good. As long as it's got a pub at the end. It's got to have a pub. It's not even worth going. There's no pub at the end. You know, that's the dumb thing. In fact, when me and my mate Gareth, who again, it works with its style. He's probably one of my best mates. We do a lot of hikes, and he's been a massive, massive help for me. Like he's probably like one of the best blokes you could ever imagine being around. He actually took me to Benidorm in December, out of nowhere. He paid for it all. He phoned me up. He got hold of my missus. He said, "Oh, is he available these dates, whatever?" Get a phone call from him. Go, right, pack your bags. We're going to Benidorm in 3 weeks. So what do you mean? I paid for us to go to Benidorm. Me and you, 4 nights. I was like, are you winding me up or what? You went, no, we're going. And like, do you know what I mean? This guy he's there helping me. And like, it's just, if I ever lost him as a friend, I'd be gutted. You know, I won't, but, you know, and we had a great time. It took my mind completely off it. You know, we end up in the same pub every day, but, you know, but it was great. You know, and the DJ there, Uncle Frank, I don't know if you heard of him.
No, never.
Absolute legend. He cheered me up a lot because he had no filter. He called me a fat bastard a lot. And throwing celebrations at me and stuff. What a guy, honestly. But yeah, going back to it, he do things like that. Like, when I'm in a low stage, I tend to not notice my support network. But, you know, when I come out of it, I do look and I think, actually, I've got loads and loads of support. I've got my in-laws, you know, they've been there for me. They've done, you know, they're closer to mum and dad than my mum. You know, they care about me. You know, and I wouldn't, you know, again, they've done a lot for us. They've been there for us, you know, wherever we need. And I, you know, I love them to bits. So yeah, there's loads of things really that help me.
For anybody listening who doesn't fully understand, doesn't know, what is bipolar?
Well, it's a mood disorder. So I don't really, how can I describe it? A good way to describe it would be like the typical like English weather. So it'd be nice and sunny, not a cloud in the sky, and you know that would be hyper. You know, everything's great, and then out of nowhere, the storm clouds come in, it's pissing down, lightning, and that's, you know, and that's your mood. So you'll be high, it's not even just highs and lows. Like it's mood swings. Your mood can go up and down over anything. You know, like little things can trigger you sometimes. Like just a mood swing. You can't help it sometimes. Like, so yeah, basically, ultimately, it's just a mood disorder. You'd be, yeah, highs and lows. So I don't really know how to describe. It's quite hard to describe, actually. So I can give you some examples of. So like, I mean, I think a lot of people might have suffered with some kind of depression in their life. I think like there's being depressed, but then there's being the lowest you've ever been. Like, I mean, like I don't even can't even imagine that. You know, like I don't really know how to describe how bad it really is. It is the low. You hate yourself. You don't want to be around. You think everyone else hate you. You think you're absolutely worthless. You don't amount to anything. So you just hide. You know, I hide. I'll sit in the corner. I'll hide. I'll lock myself in a room. I'll lay on my bed and just not move. My wife will come up. She'll talk to me and she'll get frustrated because I'll just sit there. I won't even acknowledge her. Won't even move a muscle. Just lay there flat. I can hear what she's saying. I just haven't got in me to respond. And that is, you know, and it's awful. It is really bad. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. This, but then the highs can be just as exhausting. So like, it's called hypermania with bipolar 2. So you've got mania, which is pretty erratic, but hypermania it's the same, but it's not as intense. So like some of the symptoms are impulsive decision, racing thoughts. You can lose concentration. You can be very chatty. You can be very like agitated. You can't sit down. You get like that. You feel really good about yourself in a way. So you like, I can't remember what it's called now. So like a sense of self-worth. So you feel like you can just fight the world. You know, nothing can stop you. I'm gonna run straight through that wall. Nothing's gonna stop me. And that's when you start training hard for him. That's when I know I'm hypermanic now, actually. When I start doing like 5-6 sessions of jiu-jitsu a week, but I'll do a session of jiu-jitsu and then go straight to the gym. And that'll be, you know, on and on and on and on. I'll make decisions like, right, I'm going to do this around the house. I'm going to get this for the house, for instance. I'm going to do this, blah, blah, and I'll go out and buy something. So I'll usually like get them taking interest in things like my music. Like I'll touch on more of that again. Like I said, I'm into like making music a bit. So in a hypermanic phase once, I want to start making music. So I went out and spent hundreds of pounds on like music equipment. I was like, yeah, I'm getting right into it here and then and then. And then you lose interest after a month. And then it's just sitting there. Did it with fishing. I thought, like, a few years ago, I was like, I'm going to get into fishing. Spent thousands on fishing equipment, all in like one go. Was going like 3-4 times a week. I can't get enough of it. And then just out of nowhere, I couldn't know, I'm not bothered. Move on to the next. I'd move on to the next thing that I'm interested in. And it's like that. And it can like affect you in different ways, like financially. You know, and financially quite a lot. Like, again, if it weren't for my wife, I'd probably be out of control. Like, you know, I'd be thousands of pounds in debt. But, you know, it's just, that's when I know I'm hypermanic. So the best thing, I think, is realising or knowing when you're like that, or finding something that you do that makes you tell you, right, yeah. I mean, depression's easy you know when you're depressed. Everyone knows when you're depressed. But yeah, once you start recognising that, you can kind of take a step back and go, right, no, you need to calm it down now. I mean, the only thing I don't really calm down with is the training, because it gets me fitter and it gets me doing, you know. But like when it comes to like, if I have like an idea, yeah, right, I want to buy this, I want to buy that, you know, I could end up like a full-blown snooker table in my front room one day or something, you know. That's what I mean. That's when you're right, no, come on, you're being... You know, this is another thing, like it's another strategy. I know when it's happening, I'll take a step back, or I'll tell my wife I'm thinking of doing this and that, and she'll go, "Yeah, think on it for a few days," and then and I'll be like, "No, but I really want it, I really want it." And then a couple of days later, yeah, you're right. And so it's better. That's what I'm saying. I'm coping with it a lot better in that sort of aspect. The depressive side is a bit harder to deal with. Again, like I said, I can get really low still, but it doesn't last as long. I'll keep on my meds. If I stay on my meds, and just do I'll be all right. I think like I said, I've got a great support network. There's no reason why I shouldn't. And I try my best to deal with it. There's not really much reason why it shouldn't. It's going to be hard. I've accepted it. It's going to be quite hard probably for the rest of my life. Dealing with it.
What do you think is the biggest misconception about bipolar?
That you're crazy. That you're like, yeah, people think, not any, I wouldn't say as much nowadays, but there's always that stigma, especially with men's mental health, I'd say. It's not disregarding women's mental health, of course not, but there's still that stigma, and there is still to this day, I've noticed myself. And as soon as you say, not to everyone, a lot of people are understanding nowadays, but some people, I'm bipolar, they'll just think you're mental. They'll think that you've gone off the rails. They'll say that, you're going to be out of hospital, or you're going to be walking down a road, like walking a cooked chicken or something, and that's the main concept. It's not like that at all. It's just mood swings, a lot of it can go unnoticed. Let's face it, I didn't notice it for years, neither did my wife or anything. It's just, so it can go really unnoticed, and it gets a big misconception is people only see the depressive sides. They just think you're depressed. But then when you come out of the depressive side, everything's great now. He's fine now. He's doing really well. But what people won't know is that you're in that hypomanic stage, and it's, you're not always like, there are times when it's quite level and you feel normal. It's quite rare, I think. I'm either hypomanic or, but yeah, because people don't know much about it. They don't see these impulsive decisions. They don't see these, racing thoughts. They don't see the agitation, the constant training, the constant interest in everything. Yeah, I get it because I never used to see it, but it's just people just, the misconception is they think you just suffer with depression, and when you're back, they just think, right, he's better now, and then it just reoccurs and reoccurs. So I'd say that's a big misconception.
What advice would you give to somebody who is struggling with the mental health?
Talk about it, 100%. Talk to your mate, talk to your parents, talk to your missus, talk to a neighbour, talk to anyone. Be open about it, 100% be open about it. There's nothing to be ashamed of. It's more common than anything. People, I'll be there for anyone, personally. And I'm sure a lot of decent guys like yourself,
anybody would,
anyone there, anyone with any sort of decency will be there. There is nothing to be ashamed about it. 100% speak to someone. Definitely, it could potentially save your life, and it could make your life better just by having that chat. Don't even have to talk about the condition. You can talk about anything: football, boxing, jiu-jitsu, anything. And take your mind off it, and it'll just, it'll give you that boost.
We've talked about the lowest point in your life. What's the highest point, Rob?
Definitely, I'd say my wedding day, in a way, because like I said earlier, what all I've wanted is a family, house, a good wife, a job, everything. And like I said, that was when everything's coming together. And I was like, I've just finished my training. I'm just about to start this brand new career with good money. I'm getting married to a wonderful woman, with a decent family and decent people around me. It's all coming together. I felt it was probably one of the happiest I've ever been in my life, because that to me is definitely the highest moment of my life. Sorry. The highest point of my life, 100%.
So what's next?
Well, I'll start this new job. It's going to take a couple of weeks because I've got to get vetted. I can't say where it is.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's security.
Nice.
So regarding assets, that's all, So yeah, that would be next, and then just build on from there. Carry on with jiu-jitsu. Hopefully, your blue belt comes in a few months. That's that's something to look forward to, I suppose. Yeah, just see where we go from when I get this job. I'm really excited about it, to be honest. I'm good. Glad to be getting back on my feet a bit. So again, like it's starting to build back now. Starting to come together a bit.
Things are coming back. You can see that they're coming back as well, and honestly, it's really, really good to see. And it's nice that you can talk about your bipolar and stuff. And I think it's going to help a lot of people who are watching as well. Maybe somebody is watching who doesn't know anything about bipolar and have ticked a few boxes that you have talked about. Even if one person speaks out because of it, it's been a real success.
That put a smile on my face, and I'm kind of hoping it happens. I'm kind of someone watches this who doesn't feel so right to think I need to speak to someone. And do you know what I'd like if they come and spoke to me? Because I can tell them anything they need to know. I would be there for anyone with it. Anyone.
Last bit, Rob. If the world of everything you know now, so prison service, delivering tyres, recovering cars, everything you know now, even the episodes with your bipolar and everything was at end tomorrow, and you were 16 years old, leaving school, what would you want to do and where would you want to be?
Well, if security guards was to disappear, I think I'd definitely be a shoplifter. And I wouldn't be going to prison because the prison service doesn't exist. Yeah. So do you know what? Like, seriously though, I think I love music. I absolutely love music. Music's another coping strategy for me. I love making music. I'm not very good at it, but I still, I like learning. I like knowing how it's made, everything. So I think when I'd left school, I'd probably pursue a music career and a DJ, something like that. I'd love to work in music. Even to this day, I'd love to. I'd leave any job I'm in if I got offered a job in music.
What's your favourite music?
Everything. Honestly, apart from all that crap that they play at like Blackpool Piers, all that like chavvy stuff. I grew up with like a lot of drum and bass. I used to go to raves a lot. Garage. I think like if you come in on Pan's lesson, the sort of stuff he plays, and he knows it as well. I'm always saying this is brilliant. I'm always commented on his stories with his music. I'm always commenting, saying like, yeah, remember this song, great, blah blah. But exactly near enough the same taste as him. But then on the flip side, I like what Brownie plays, the classic rock. I love things like that. I love like the sound of instruments. I'm not a big like classical fan, but like I said, I study music a lot, like just in general. So if I listen to classic, I'll find the tempo. I'll listen to think, oh, that would sound good over this. This sound good over this drum and bass track. It'd sound good over, like it'd be a cello or something. And I'll visualize a song in my head, and I'm like, and I'll go up to the studio and I'm like, I'll type something in and remember it, or even try and like record the audio and see if it works. It's brilliant, yeah. So yeah, again, I love music. It's brilliant.
Good, mate.
Yeah.
That's it, mate.
Brilliant.
Thanks for doing this. I really appreciate your time, and thanks for being so open as well. I've learned loads about you, and I learned loads about bipolar as well, and mental health in general. I think is a massive subject. So I've really, really enjoyed having you on. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it, guys. So thanks for tuning into this one. Thanks for watching or for listening if you're on the audio. Any feedback, as usual, if you've got any feedback, let me know. Message the page or comment on the posts. If you've got any suggestions for any guests, I'm also still taking suggestions as well. Any guests you think I should get on, I will try my best to get them on. But that's it for this one. I hope it's been informative, and I hope everyone's enjoyed it. It's a little bit different to the career we normally go down, but I think a really, really important subject and something that, I'm glad we covered. So thanks again, Rob. And hopefully see you in the next one. Thank you.